second episode of the ND podcast. We're here with Baerdcyn, Bardic Wizard, musical instrument extraordinaire. Yeah, can't say much more than that. Tell us first how you where the name came from.
All right. So honestly, I don't know where the name actually came from. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. But it's it's pronounced, for the people wondering, it is pronounced Baerdcyn. The AE was supposed to be one of those like A backwards E diphthong sort of things. But my keyboard at the time just didn't have it. So I was like, oh, okay, AE it is. And then from there, the Y in Old English is pronounced like ew, and ew, that's gross. So it's Baerdcyn. And then from there, you could technically take the modern English bard and the Old English coon, which is like kin, offspring. Put it together, and it kind of translates to like the son of a bard, the bard's son.
Which is very fitting.
Which was a also complete accident. I just made the name. Was like, oh, that sounds cool. And I was like, I wonder if that translates to something. I looked it up. I was like, oh, what do you know? Because I know how to read Old English. I don't know how to have a conversation. I don't know what a single word means, but I can pronounce it correctly. So.
Okay, well, well, you gotta tell me more about that. First of all, how does one learn Old English? Like, what?
So,
what inspired that?
Well, so I've always been a huge medieval fantasy nerd and everything. Out of all my bardic instruments, my first was my lute. I had gotten it senior year of high school, so 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And so I got it for Christmas, but I didn't get it for like medieval fantasy, Skyrim kind of music. I had gotten it for legitimate like Renaissance repertoire because I'm a big history buff. And then from that, I kind of later down the line, I started getting really into Beowulf, and I wanted to, even though timelines don't match, I wanted to like sit there and play my lute and say Beowulf in Old English. So I took the time to figure out how to read it. I don't know what a single word means, but I do have a little bit of the beginning committed to memory and slight hack job Old English. But so that's where that came from. And then that's where I then kind of threw that into the name for the project.
Cool. Yeah, so with the lute and stuff, like I've kind of always been kind of curious, like, because man, there's a lot of instruments that I've seen you play. Yeah, so I guess it started with the lute, and then did that just turn into a rabbit hole of just like wanting to like pick up
kind of. I've always been very musical and like get my hands on everything. I started with saxophone in 5th grade. That was my first instrument. From there, I kind of just started picking up wind instruments, just little things, nothing big. I started working my way through the different saxophones, ended up picking up ocarina and like penny whistle and everything. My first stringed instrument, besides just like messing on guitar, I got a banjo, just like standard 5-string bluegrass banjo for freshman year, I think high school, it would have been Christmas. And a mandolin, I think I got that year too. I don't know if that was.
I just picked up a mandolin.
So that I originally got the mandolin for bluegrass, and now I don't touch bluegrass. Is way too hard. Like listening to it, you think it's hokey like hillbilly music, but like no, man, it's some tough stuff, especially the banjo parts. Oh my god.
No, I bought it because my friends we're like talking about starting a bluegrass band, and they're like,
oh, there you go, yo.
Well, they were like, you want to play the washboard, and I'm like.
That's funny. Yeah. So the janitor of my little brother's school is in a huge bluegrass band in the area. So that's how I started like getting into bluegrass. And then during COVID, because I was like, oh, I guess I'm stuck now, I started doing like one-man band, because you said the washboard, like one-man band ragtime jazz kind of stuff. But I didn't have a backpack drum. So I sat on a wooden Budweiser crate with a bass drum hooked up to it, had my banjo, strapped a bunch of like bike horns to the banjo. I had a desk bell and a castanet and cookie tins on the lid of the crate, and I had a hi-hat. And then I had a like harmonica mount, but I can't play the harmonica. That's just stupid. So it was a kazoo and like a duck call. And it was the stupidest thing ever, but it was some of the most fun I've had musically.
You would be a
oh my
great
god, that was
addition
fun.
to our musical projects because like
Oh yeah,
that is like exactly like the type of vibe that like we were
yo,
just like fucking shooting the shit about like yeah like it's kind of like it's like blue like we're like bluegrass but just like taking it in the most like
yo,
ridiculous like
oh yeah, bluegrass folk punk.
yeah kind of like yeah just getting real fun with it.
Oh yeah,
Um, but yeah, so you're talking about like yeah, you picked up the banjo and the mandolin, and then
yeah. Then so then after that, I think my next thing would have been the lute senior year, and then that kind of I've always like known about all your medieval instruments and stuff because, like I said, I'm a huge medieval history nerd. My mom's a huge medieval history nerd. Um, I have great memories of just her putting on random like Renaissance albums out of nowhere, and that's kind of like what started it.
yeah,
And eventually, I just started picking up, as I could, instruments here and there to build my arsenal. My first EP, the Cave of Time EP. It's just a lute, classical guitar, I think, mandolin and recorder. I didn't even have the Irish whistle yet because I had some, but not the one I use, and that was it. And that's what started it. By the time I got to Wee But Somber Beings, I had gotten the Irish whistle, and I got a lyre, and then it just started going crazy from there.
where do you like where do you get all of like your instruments typically? Like, are you buying them new or like you buy them used? Like,
Um,
because they're I mean they're difficult to find. I always get I
yeah,
kind of get curious like, and
a
I'll
lot
like
of the stuff I have is Etsy.
mm,
The especially the weird stuff. So my sitole I have that I got custom made on Etsy, and when I ordered it, the guy for free. I asked him if he could. He would the what's it called? Oh my god, I forgot what they call it, but the like engravings they do in the sound hole.
uh-huh,
I asked them to do kind of like a silhouette of the wizard from Cave of Time. So
cool.
that's a one of one from Etsy. Everything else is just kind of I don't know. My bass recorder was Amazon. That was pretty cheap, but I got it. I was lucky. It was like the last one, and it hasn't showed up since. Irish Whistle. It's one of the best ones I've ever heard. It's a $10 2-pack on Amazon.
You're gonna have to, I
Um,
need to get the link from you for
oh
that.
yeah, I
I've
would
been looking
definitely
for one
do
of
that.
those.
And the only other like crazy things, my loot was a score off of eBay. It was like a not secondhand, but like damaged box deal.
Mm,
It's a Ruspec 8 course travel loot. So it's like student quality, but it's good enough for what it is, and I know how to work with it mixing wise and everything to get it the
yeah,
best out of it. The hammered dulcimer was from I think I forget where, but that was pretty affordable considering
mm,
hammered dulcimer go. Um, classical guitar I already had. That was my mom's. I'm trying to think what else I have. Oh, the Celtic harp was Amazon. That's not that great. It's cheap Chinese junk, but it works. Looking around, seeing if I'm missing anything. And my bowed psaltery I got for Easter, or well, it was my birthday, one or the other. But that's Amazon. It's just knowing where to look and what deals are where.
yeah. I mean, a lot of the times, dude. I'll be I'm scrolling through Instagram, and then I have a reel of you pop up playing an instrument, and it's like sometimes it's like something that I had never even like
Oh
heard of,
yeah,
and then I end up going on Wikipedia and I'm just reading about all these like weird,
oh
like I
yeah.
don't think I had known what a hurdy-gurdy was until
Oh yeah, I forgot the hurdy-gurdy was Etsy too. That was like a
okay,
101 deal. That was
yeah,
considering hurdy-gurdy's really cheap. So
man, yeah, that was one I was just like I read the name of it and I'm like, is that even a real instrument?
yeah.
But yeah, now I've been I don't know, lately I've just been like kind of I've been coming across a lot of old keyboards, and so now I've just
Mm.
been kind of like I got the mandolin. I'm just like a bad like kind of once I start collecting things, I kind of just go
Oh
through
yeah,
this like obsessive period, and now I think I'm just kind of on an instrument kick.
oh yeah,
So yeah, I was thinking about getting some of them the penny whistles. I knew were kind of cheap. I was like, man, that could be kind of fun to mess around with, and yeah, I don't know. I like yeah, and then I've been just kind of reading a lot too on like a lot of those like older instruments and stuff. I went around the other day trying to check out music shops sometimes. I was looking for the penny whistles, and then
yeah,
I came across like an auto harp and a hammered dulcimer, and I had
oh
to
yeah,
stop myself from walking out with both of them.
oh yeah.
But yeah, it's just yeah, it's cool just seeing like yeah, all the yeah, just all the instruments that you do and like I don't know, really impressive seeing someone being able to play like that many different things, you know, especially you know, not to like talk down on like digital music because I do everything from like
Oh
synth
yeah,
and pedals, like, but you know, it's yeah, it's just it's impressive because like a computer, it's like you have access to all these like I mean, you still need to know how it works, right? But you
yeah,
have access to all these different instruments and stuff, and then to like, but to see it physically done, it's just
yeah,
like, whoa.
yeah, yeah. It's I don't know if it's the autism diagnosis or if it's just how I work, but usually I'll pick apart like what is similar between instruments and work from there. I'm self-taught on everything except saxophone. Saxophone I
And
was because it's school band,
yeah,
but
that's what I was gonna ask too. Was yeah, if you've ever like taken any lessons or anything, or if it's all just
yeah,
like kind of just
just school band. But
man, yeah,
it's taking apart like looking at saxophone and all the wind instruments. It's like every wind instrument is basically a saxophone that's just very simple.
mhm,
Like a penny whistle, it's a saxophone without having to use embouchure and without any weird funky side keys. I mean, from there it's like same with looking at like going from guitar to lute. A lute is a guitar with just a weird tuning and more
yeah,
string. Mandolin is a little guitar with way too high string pressure and really tiny strings like together. You know, so it's like looking at, okay, I know how to play this instrument. How can I apply that to this instrument? I think that's where I've gotten to the point I'm at now.
just being able to play like those like the fundamentals from like one
Yeah.
thing just kind of goes to because like I mean from at least just from what I've like heard and like seen you play, like it seems like it's not like you're just like fucking around. Like you are, you know, like you're a proficient. Like you know, it's like no, this guy's playing it. You know, so
Thing.
um, uh, I think I'd seen like last year you had done like a live performance at like a Renaissance fair or something like that.
Oh, it was a that was horrible, terrible. Not out of my control, but no, it was this like hippie craft fair festival thing,
Mhm.
like right down the street from me. And right as I was about to, my set was coming up, it started downpouring. So they had to move all the electronics from the tent to like the
Oh no!
canopy on the store, which was fine until then that took too long. So then everyone's like time slots got backed up. Then the guy who was originally going to before me got super drunk, gets on stage. His set went over like an hour. It was supposed to. I
What was
felt
he playing? What?
I don't know, man, because no one was afraid to like kick him out. I'm like, yo, like as fair as everyone needs to perform, I got to perform too. So I felt
I
bad for
was
everyone
totally
else.
shit faced with a
So I
loop.
literally just like I gave up. I played a song and packed up and went home.
Oh man!
So that was some. I mean, I got my mom got some good pictures of it, but I would totally be down to try and do some more live performances, especially now watching the your video with Spife. See,
Yeah.
hearing you guys talk about his live stuff, it's hard for me because since none of it is digital, I have to heavily rely on looping.
Hmm.
I would either have to rely on looping or have a giant computer next to me with pre-made tracks, which I don't
Yeah,
like.
with like a bunch of backing tracks and stuff.
It works, and especially for other acts. Like I don't want to diss on using a computer in performance because it is blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. It's a necessity sometimes. But for me, with I make the joke on the Dungeon Synth posting group on Facebook a lot, like, oh, I'm true analog, like no synths here. Like as much as digital is totally acceptable, it doesn't work with my vibe, and I'd rather
Yeah.
not have to use a backing track. So really, I just have to use a loop pedal,
Hmm.
but that can only get you so far. So really, my live sets, it would be I can do Cave of Time because that's one riff looped for the entire song, and it is my favorite track of mine. So that works great. It was also the first track I ever wrote for the project. So I can do that song and basically just do a bunch of instrument improv, which works because they have enough instruments to fill in the time. But I kind of feel like that's going to get stale a little bit, if I were to do that live, especially for multiple shows. So I mean, but
So
it is definitely something I'm going to try and test out
yeah.
eventually.
I think even doing like improvised could be cool because it's just like I mean, just like seeing all the instruments and stuff.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, even yeah, I mean, you don't have to. Obviously, you wouldn't be bringing the whole arsenal,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but just
Well,
seeing anybody like live playing, instruments like that, I think would be like really interesting. It's like me and Spife were talking. Spife had said something about, we were talking about like live dungeon synth, and then he was
yeah,
talking about like the Renaissance Fair band. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, man, I would love to like,
That's a
like put
perfect.
that
It
on with
really
any
is.
I'm down for it.
It's a perfect outlet for dungeon synth, especially. Um, there's a Renaissance Fair not too far from me, just a little one every year. I meant to try and get in there this year, but I missed it. But I want to try and get, rather than a performance slot, I want to try and get a booth
Oh
and
yeah.
make some CDs, get some artist copies, also have some art, sell that, and in between performance times, just kind of noodle around on my instruments to get attention. You know?
Oh man, there you go. Yeah, because it's like, yeah, that's a really good idea. Because then it's
Because
like a little bit like less pressure of like having to come up with like a full
oh
performance and
yeah,
stuff, and but it's like, but it's also like a great way to just get like more exposure on like the music,
yeah,
yeah, move
especially
some
local.
CDs and stuff. Yeah, um, yeah, because I feel like that's like something that like I think a lot of people are like take for granted is like how important it is to just be like involved like locally, like
Oh
where
yeah,
where you can.
that's
Just
especially with me because the one thing like working against me compared to all of like the people I talk with in the scene, I'm in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. Like I love it out here, but I am in the middle of the Jersey Pine Barrens
mhm.
on the coast. There's nothing out here. The local scene it's like three bluegrass bands and five bar bands in a like 20-mile radius. That's
what's
it.
the closest like
City,
big city?
Philly or New York.
And those are like how far away? That's like a couple hours,
Philly's
right?
a good two. New York's a two and a half, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I mean, and there's some like small music scenes like up in New Brunswick, Rutgers. That's almost New York.
Yeah.
They have a pretty
New
good
Brunswick, they have a
scene.
big noise scene. They got a lot
Oh
of
my
dudes
god,
from
yeah, they
RIT
have
up
a
there.
great noise scene and a great hardcore scene.
Yeah.
My buddy goes through. He's in not with them, but he does a lot of their shows. He's in a great math rock band
Cool.
up in New
What's that band
Brunswick.
called?
So he has a few. His main one is Gabagool, but like
Cool.
Gaba Ghoul. They're great. They're like a mix of like shoegaze, emo, and math rock.
Cool.
And forget his other bands. I forget. Oh, he had a solo project for a while. I used to be in the band, but for like long distance commute, I just backed out like on good terms.
Yeah.
That's Cody Koudi. Great project. I think he just wrapped up the project, but definitely everyone on here, check out his stuff. It's great. Cody's like really, really like shoegaze, dream pop, indie kind of stuff. Really, he is one of the best like people of using the studio as an instrument that I've seen in a while, especially with like small acts.
Well, I'm gonna have to, yeah, I'm gonna check out their stuff after we wrap
Oh
this
yeah,
up. Like, that's dope. Um, yeah, so you have an upcoming release on Nocturnal Dissonance. We're
yeah,
doing the split with your project Salt Marsh, split with Spife.
yeah.
The Thinking of the Dwin Spawns.
Yeah, the twin spawns,
Okay,
something like
I was like in my head, I had like was like pronouncing it differently, and then Spife said it, and I was like, oh, I have the album title mixed up in my head.
that. Oh
I
yeah,
think, yeah. So,
the Salt Marsh is it's definitely a sweet spot project for me because I mean I kind of hinted at it with Heritage of the Bay, but with Baerdcyn, but I very very much am appreciative of my kind of like New Jersey culture and the area I'm at. My I where I'm at right now, I grew up 45 minutes north of where I live. 3 or 4 years ago, my family and I moved back down to where my mom grew up. She grew up literally 5 minutes down the street from where we live right now. My grandparents are still there, so they come over and visit, have coffee every morning. It's lovely. But in the area, it's very much Bayman culture. I mean, I am a 5 minute walk from hitting Salt Swamp. Um, it's my grandfather was a duck hunter and clammer all his life. All my family on my mom's side was, duck hunters, clammers, some of them stock car drivers. But having that Bayman culture is very much, especially the connection to the Bay, is very much ingrained into me. I mean, I'm not super religious. I do kind of identify as borderline Quaker. I kind of call it agnostic Quakerism, where I don't really connect to God, but I do practice the Quaker beliefs of like whatever upper being you commune with, you want to have a personal, like one-on-one relationship. There should be no church, really setting. And I get that because my grandfather is the groundskeeper at the local Quaker meeting house, and he always told me a story when I was little of how he converted to Quakerism. His uncle once skipped out on church the one day, and the pastor comes up to him and says, why weren't you at church? Were you out getting drunk or something? Like trying to be mean to him. And the guy's like, no, I went to church. He's like, I hopped in my duck boat and I boated out into the bay and I sat there and that was church. And that resonated with me that like nature is where, we come from nature.
Yeah.
And like nature is where we belong.
Yeah.
So I've always had a very, very strong connection to the bay and the salt and air and everything. Heritage of the Bay kind of hinted at that. And then Salt Marsh, I really wanted to bring in that emotion with it. So it was mid-December 22, and I had taken a walk out to the salt swamp. And I mean, the fog was so thick, I couldn't see more than 2 feet in front of me. And it was gorgeous. I took like a 50 photo shoot of just everything around me, and that's what a lot of the pictures for Salt Marsh became. And then I went home and recorded music for the pictures. The first song I recorded was Fog. That's still, I think, my favorite Salt Marsh track. But I always wanted to try and incorporate saxophone into metal. Even before Salt Marsh, I've had some ideas for like stoner doom projects using sax but I don't play drums and I don't feel like programming. So
that Ketamine Wizard project uses sax, right?
You remember, yeah. I don't touch that anymore just because I hate programming drums and I can't play drums. But
I love the tracks on that though. Like when you would when you first posted those up, I had like reached out to you because I was just like, what the fuck? Like this is
oh my gosh, I remember. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. It's like that. I love, especially with that, like the goofy side of it too. Like if you're gonna be doing stoner doom, don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
But Salt Marsh is really cool. I want to try and use a lot more folk instrumentation. I'm debating. I am just started work on a new album for Salt Marsh, and I do have it's an 1800s replica fretless banjo. I'm debating. I'm probably going to use that in some interludes and such. Widen the sax range a little, so it's going to be a bit of a bigger album. But yeah, Salt Marsh is continuing and it's getting there.
Is that going to be like are you planning for it to be like a full length release or like?
I'm hoping for a full length.
Cool.
Knowing me, it very well could be an EP because I can't wait on material. But we've all noticed I have way too many EPs out, and that's because I like record and I'm like, oh, I want people to hear, so I throw it out. I don't wait with like, oh, hype, man, coming in 2 months. No, I finished that album and it's on Bandcamp that day.
No, that's cool. I think that's like, I think that's how a lot of people in, our little scene kind of work, right? It's just like, all right, it's done. Like, this sounds good enough right here. Because it's like, but I mean, that's how you capture that like immediate, that immediate feeling and like emotion, I mean, I'm the same way. Like, if I make something and like I like the sound of it, it's like, as soon as I allow myself to get in there and start fiddling around with it and trying to make it like perfect, I ruin the whole thing. I got to track it, and it's like I got to start over. Oh, something else. So when you were talking about the marshes and stuff, I had remembered that you have a canoe that you carved, and I wanted to ask you about that.
So it's not a canoe. It's a John boat. It's 10-foot John boat. That thing is my pride and joy. I don't get to use it as nearly as much as I would like to, but I built that in senior year high school woodshop. It's
Eh,
it's really nice. I love it. And so I started it in February of that school year. Ended up carrying over into the summer I graduated. I finished it would have been September 25th, 2019. And then because I put it in the local gunning and boat show, and I won third place in the category. But I finished it morning of the show.
oh shit.
I entered it in before I even knew it was going to be finished. I was like, oh man, I got this finished. My grandfather and I were working on it together, and he like showed me the process and everything. So that was I love that experience. That's what I love that.
That was another thing where I was just like, yeah, I'd seen that pop up in my feed, and I'm like, what? This guy plays all these instruments, and he's making boats. Like,
Yeah.
what can he not do?
Oh yeah.
Um, I guess like that kind of brings so like something I kind of want to like get into with people too is just um just finding out like more like what people are into like besides music, I guess. Like someone's like hobbies outside of their creative outlet. It's like it either makes for a very interesting contrast, or it's kind of like might
Compliments
maybe
it. Yeah.
influences it. Yeah, or complements it. Yeah.
So I easiest way to describe myself is I live by the code of the wizard. I live on two opposite ends of the wizard spectrum. I exist in Dungeon Synth and I exist in Stoner Doom. Um, I'm either like, and it's a toss of a coin, which what I'm feeling each day. But it's either I'm doing Dungeon Synth things or I'm like 70s mural van. Um, so I have a '77 Ford van. I painted a wizard on the side of it, and my tire cover I painted the monolith scene from 2001: Space Odyssey. And then from there, I to keep with the vibe. Is this either going to be the coolest thing you think or the stupidest thing you think, depending on who's watching. I have a 100 plus hour long Spotify playlist for van music.
It's a great
It,
playlist.
it is a mix.
You sent that over
Yeah,
to me, and I got
I
it
did.
saved.
It
Yeah.
is it's a mix between stoner doom, classic rock, classic hard rock, blues rock. Got some '70s like jazz funk, jazz soul, some fusion in there. There's some outlier songs in there too. It's it is my pride and joy, and I'm constantly updating it. It is also hand picked. So a lot of your like, oh, I have a 90-hour playlist. They just add whole albums. I list every song that's on that
Handpicked.
playlist. I have listened to, and I'm like, yeah, that's playlist worthy.
I
So,
drop a link to that in the description
oh
when I
yeah,
get
of
this
course,
video.
yeah, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, just word to the wise for the viewers. It's not a lot, but there are some songs that are personal files, so there will be some blacked out songs, but it's not much.
Cool. Yeah, because that's a sick playlist. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
gotta spread the word on that.
oh yeah.
Uh,
Besides that, that's really it. I mean, I draw. I'm an artist, but usually most of my visual art sticks in the DS comfy synth kind of realm. And then besides that, yeah, that's it. I live for wizards.
are you into D&D at all?
Oh yeah, I've been playing since I was 10.
Oh
I'm
shit.
22. I have been playing since I was 10, on and off. Usually, anymore I DM. I'm the perma DM, but I like it, and the reason being, I once had a game with a friend. This ended our friendship. Um, he, I had made an amazing character. I ran it by him first because it is a little unorthodox, and he said, "Yes, that's fine." I was a snake oil salesman alchemist. So instead of actually having like a magic user class, it was a thief. And my charisma was nuts. I was playing fifth edition. I usually don't. I play like AD&D first, second, maybe basic edition. But I was playing fifth edition. My persuasion was like +7. It was absurd. I remembered, and I was like, what I would do, I'd throw a bottle of water at you and be like, oh, it's a sleeping potion. You're getting sleepy. And I roll for persuasion and convince them they fell asleep. And I ran it by him. He said it was fine. We got to the miners guild or something in town. I was like, I got a shipment of magical pickaxes. Give me $100 now, and I'll give you one extra pickaxe when they come in. Rolled. I didn't get a nat 20, but with my bonus, I got like a 23. He didn't counter roll or anything. And like, granted, yeah, would have derailed the situation, but he didn't counter roll. I mean, how is this above a DC 23? He's like, she looks at you head to toe and says, "Get out." And when I was like, dude, I'm just trying to have some like player fun, and you're like, no, you can't do that because it's going to make my role as a DM harder because I know what I want. And it left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. So as a DM, I am the player's pen and paper. They are the author. I'm here for them to convey their stories.
Mhm.
Like if you want to go into town and kill all the town guard, like I don't care. Go ahead and do it. There are going to be consequences, probably, but I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
And that's why I DM all the time, because no one should ever be told no from having their fun. I feel like in D&D. I
Mhm.
mean, consequences should definitely exist, but the actions should always be allowed, as long as it's like not some heinous, obscene act of like doom. But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because if the DM starts getting to trying to micromanage everything, it's like takes the fun. It's no longer an RPG, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's
so
the DM's book.
yeah, 'cause, yeah, I'm sure like everybody. But I mean, I feel like that's might just end up being one of my regular, one of my standard questions is like, so you play D&D? What's your
Yeah.
character? Because
Oh
like
yeah.
everybody kind of like seems to be into it. Everybody
Yeah.
except me, because it's only until now that I've been able to.
Oh yeah. Well, I
See
mean,
everybody else play.
it's
I'm like, what?
weird. So I learned D&D from my dad. He never played. He collected the books. He did some
Okay.
solo gaming back in the day, but he never had anyone to play with. But it didn't stop him from getting like, dude, I have like 5 or 6 of those like the cardboard book boxes of just D&D books from him.
The books are sick, like with the
Oh my
illustrations and
god,
stuff, and all
yes,
the
especially
flavor
all that old
text.
school stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, man. There's a half price books in town that has like they got some of like the original like advanced Dungeons and Dragons ones from
Oh,
the 80s.
I have my it's under stuff on my table, so I'm not gonna take it out. But I have the original Dungeon Master's guide sitting right next to me. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I thought they were like it's all tattered up and shit, and they're like selling it for like $200 or $300, and I was
Oh
just
my
like,
god, it's not. It's it's a $200 book in super mint condition,
yeah,
not tattered up.
they're
No.
yeah, no, they were like really trying to. And then I saw one too. It was like it wasn't for D&D. It was like for some other sort of like tabletop RPG, but then it was like Tolkien themed, but like from the 80s. And they were like, I wanted to get it, but it was like it wasn't even a book. It was more like one of those like almost like a pamphlet type of thing.
Yeah,
And then it
yeah,
was like $50. I was just like,
yeah.
yeah, I can pass on this.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I love the those like the old D&D books are like just like super sick to like find like just like art, look at the art and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
um dude, what about Magic the Gathering? You ever get into
So
that?
hot take, I hate card games. Hate card games. Not because there's anything wrong with them, just because my ADHD brain doesn't like the thought of like sitting there crafting a deck.
Yeah.
I want to just like, okay, give me play now. I don't have to like build a deck over years to get good at the game, you know?
Yeah. I understand that.
I love the art on the cards and everything, just like for playing sake. It's not even like anti-magic. I just don't like card games.
I understand that. I was like really big into Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid.
Okay,
Like
that's fine.
so yeah, I
So
like grew up when like the anime series like got
yeah,
really
so I
big, and then I was
I
just
collected Pokemon cards as a kid. I
okay.
love the
Yeah.
game. I didn't play the card game, but I collected the cards.
The
Um,
Pokemon card game always like when I was a kid just seemed way too
oh
complex.
my
Then like
god,
Yu-Gi-Oh and
yeah,
stuff, like there's always like extra things that you
yeah.
needed.
But because I hit my half sister's hand me down Game Boy as a kid, and she gave me all the games she didn't want to play on her DS, and it was garbage. It was like I got the Chicken Little game. It's like what was it, Disney's Atlantis game, and then all these garbage games I got Pokemon Red. Like amidst all these garbage movie games,
One good
Pokemon
one.
Red, and I played that game so much. I
That's all you
remember
need as a kid.
but as a kid, because I picked the cool one. I picked Charmander. but you can't beat the first gym with Charmander. So I was like, oh, what do I do? So I would literally just pick Charmander, play until I hit the first gym, and restart the game. Pick Charmander, hit the first gym, restart the game. I probably logged like 100+ hours just doing that in the game.
Man, I like think back on like, yeah, I don't. Kids have it so easy now because they can just like
God,
hop on
yeah.
YouTube and like. I mean, I remember I was able to like we had like game guides and stuff back then, but it was just like you would have to read through like pages and pages of text, and then even then
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, not very like reliable. Now you can just
Yep.
get on YouTube and figure everything out right away.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I like think back when I was a kid playing games. It's like were video games harder back then, or was I just like
Oh
a
no, they
dumb
were
kid?
totally harder. One of my favorite games was Simpsons Hit and Run. Are you familiar with the game?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
they
I
need to
could
bring
never.
that back. Like they
They
need to do like a
do.
remake or whatever.
They totally do. Dude, I was one of my favorite streamers did a one sitting playthrough of the game. It's like a 13-hour stream. He legitimately, it was so hard at one point, he turned off all the game sound and muted his chat just so he could focus on the game. It's like it's nuts. That game is like too hard for a children's movie game.
I think man that one I don't even. I just remember like driving around hitting stuff
Yeah, that's
with
what
it.
I
You know.
did. I never played the missions. I was like, oh, I can be Homer and run people
Yeah.
over. Hell yeah.
No, but yeah, since it didn't run, man, that was back when you would still like we could still like rent video games at the store.
No,
Like, because I
no,
don't think that was a game that I ever bought. Like, I think it was one that we
yeah.
just rented a few times, and then oh man, yeah.
Especially and going back to like Dungeon Sims, but still on games. My first game was Morrowind.
Dude, that was
First
my
game
that is what I
ever.
grew up on. Yeah.
So my first game ever was Morrowind. My second game ever was Doom 2. It's like I might only be 22, but because my dad was a 90s PC gamer.
Yeah.
So I
Same.
grew up.
Yep.
Everyone always gives me shit for it. I'd have to play invert mouse because he played invert mouse, and
Okay,
I'd always
now
just
that
pick up
makes
the
not good.
I'd pick up the game after he played, and I just got used to it. But how he describes it, it actually kind of makes sense. I always tell people, like, yeah, hold on, let me explain. So think of it like your mouse is your head. If you were to pull your head back, you'd be looking up. You see what I mean? So invert, if invert mouse,
Yeah.
if I go down, I look up.
Yeah.
If I were to move my head like the mouse, back is up. So like invert kind of makes sense when you really think hard.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah. So everyone always gives me crap for it, but like, hey man, I just it's what I learned.
Yeah. That's what yeah, that's what you grew up on. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, man. My dad, I remember playing like just playing through like early, like Diablo 1 a lot and
Yeah.
like watching him play that and like yeah, and then we got an Xbox and it was like a lot of I played a lot of Morrowind and a lot of Halo 2. It was like what
Oh,
I
there
think
you
what
go.
really
Yeah.
like
Well,
got me going.
for me,
When I was like younger.
it was Morrowind, Doom 2, and Half-Life.
Half-Life
Those
too.
were
It's
my
like
games.
yeah.
I really one of these days because I started like I'm not sure if you listened yet, but that Argon saxophone project I did.
I was listening to that while I was waiting for you to
Oh,
hop into the
cool.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to start exploring more with EDM kind of stuff. And even though this is completely different, I want to eventually do like a Half-Life 2 style, like jungle 2000s, drum and bass kind of project one of these days.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I
No,
want
I
to
just
combine like that jungle with a little bit of like house, bringing the sax into it.
yeah. No, I didn't even realize like because I've listened to like I love like breakcore and like drum and
Oh
bass
yeah.
stuff from like the 90s,
Yeah.
But like I didn't it wasn't until like recently that I got like started getting videos recommended on YouTube where it's like the compilations of like late 90s like N64 game soundtracks, but it's like the jungle shit.
I
I don't
love
know why
those.
that never like clicked with
Especially
me
like
that like
the PlayStation ones on YouTube. I get those all the
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
But
like, but I don't remember those songs, and it's like it makes sense because it's like if those are
yep.
the games I grew up playing. Like, of course, I like this is kind of like the style of like
It's a
electronic
vibe,
music I'm
yeah.
into, yeah. And
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, that stuff is just it's great.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of psytrance and like 90s, not industrial rock and metal, but industrial EDM.
Ooh,
So
yeah.
like I can't think of any groups off the top of my head, but yeah, a lot of industrial EDM and psytrance because my dad was huge into that stuff. So
You talking like Schpungle?
yeah, a lot of that. And then my favorite psytrance is Juno Reactor. He did the he worked on the Mortal Kombat song for the movie. That he worked on that. He did some songs for the Matrix soundtrack too. He's my favorite psytrance artist.
I just Googled them. I'm gonna check them out after
Definitely,
this.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I love that type of stuff too. Spungle's like the one that like I was just kind of like I'm not like yeah I like it, but I'm not like super deep into it, you know. But yeah, sometimes I'll just throw on Spungle if I'm just trying to get real fucking weird with it. But yeah, man, like you've done some kind of like electronic stuff before. Like I don't know if it was ever like something you had released, but I remember you had done a oh man, I want to say it was like you were doing like a cover of like, or maybe it just like reminded me of the soundtrack to Sonic, like the I think
Yes,
it was
yes, yes. I remember this. It was the metal
was it
one though, right? Was
I
it
think
metal
so.
with Sonic? So I want to get back to that one day. I started it, and that was the only song I did. It was called Hyperdisc, the
Yeah,
project.
it was
I
metal
found
but
it.
like electronic.
So it's a VST of the sound chip in the Genesis. And I took that and just wrote like stupid like 90s like death metal thrash kind of riffs, but using just Genesis sound font song like instruments.
Mhm.
I called it Hyperdisc. I took a picture. The picture is one of my favorites from work when I was at Walmart. My coworker took a picture of him. He took a picture of my other coworker like T-posing over me, and I'm like screaming. So I cropped out, I zoomed in on my head screaming. I look like I'm in immense pain. And I took it and put it into like a dithering filter. And that was the album cover for it.
Is that is that so? Is that one on Bandcamp or
It's only on my Instagram right now. I
okay?
said in the description, I was like, oh, coming to Bandcamp soon. I never put it on Bandcamp.
No, that one was like super sick. Do you listen to like do you listen to like hyperpop? Any like
A little.
hyperpop artists?
I don't, so I love hyperpop, but I don't listen to
Mhm.
hyperpop. A lot of that goes for most things. Honestly, there's not much music I don't like.
Yeah,
But I don't listen to all music. You know, it's
yeah.
like I'll hear something like, whoa, this is cool, man. But because I'm so already deep into the genres I listen to, I don't put enough time into it.
Into like
So
new like other stuff. Yeah, I feel that. No, I was just wondering because there's a like one artist in particular, Sophie, that was like
yeah,
um yeah, okay, yeah. Like that I don't know. There was something about that track, like the snippet that you sent me, like
yeah,
it just reminded me because like Sophie has this like really unique like drum and like this weird like bubbly synth sound, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
sounds like bubbles popping,
yeah,
and like your that track kind of just kind of reminded me of that, and it just like and yeah, so I was just like yeah, kind of curious if there was like some sort of like if you were like familiar with that or if that's just like you just
yeah,
um but yeah I'm the same way though with like music where it's just like I'm kind of like just listen to like I listen to like everything, and then there's just like a
yeah.
few things where I'm kind of like my main genres, but I balance between like everything.
Mm.
You can kind of see it. Like sometimes I'll post pictures of Albert, and then I'll just put like random songs that I'm listening to, and it's just kind of like it's kind of also my way to like kick out any of the people that are around because it's
Oh
they
yeah,
think I'm like some you know
yeah,
if you're here for the edgy black metal,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not the guy
So
for you.
I love that because I honestly, it's so terrible because I'm in the DS scene. Black metal is the probably the genre of anything I know the least about. I've only
I think
started
we've
getting
talked about
into
that
black.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only started getting into black metal because of joining the DS scene. My
Uh-huh.
first listen to black metal and like actually taking it and enjoying it was, I think it was Long Touchers, The Offering. I had gotten it on tape from Where Gnome Records just because I was like, okay. I put it on, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's kind of good. But I can only really listen to like post black, black gaze kind of stuff. I could do some traditional like atmospheric black metal, but I need that like ethereal texture to my black metal. It
Yeah.
can be raw still. Like I have no problem with like raw production quality, but it need like that Pale Swordsman is one of my favorite albums of all time. But like, and I don't care that it's raw. It's because of how ethereal it kind of feels is why I
Yeah.
like it.
Like with I don't know, when it's like a little bit more like melodic to it, but
Yeah, yeah.
like yeah, that like atmosphere. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, but like even going into that, my one of my favorite bands right now is Thou.
Oh yeah,
Um, I because I love
love
them because
them.
it's straight sludge, but it's almost blackened sludge. Like
Yeah,
the only thing really blackened about it is his vocals. But at the same time, it evokes that same exact feeling, especially their more recent stuff, like Heathen Onwards. It brings the same exact emotion like Post Black brings, but with sludge.
man, I love that stuff is great. And I like
Oh my
they're
god,
kind of
yeah.
like full of hell that they've been doing like a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
just collaborating with
Oh my
like
god, yeah.
everybody, which
So speaking of Full of Hell, time for my my poser to show. I I love deathcore. I'm a big fan of like, but when it comes to deathcore, I'm very
that
picky. I like my down tempo, beat down kind of stuff. So perfect example because that's why I'm bringing up Acacia Strain. They're the Full of Hell Primitive Man Acacia Strain collab they did um just this year. There it's what is it? I forget the
know that I
album
listened to
title,
that yet.
but it's so because they did it. It was a double concept album where they have one album is like a grindcore beatdown album where there's not a song over like 3 minutes, and that's long for the album.
I
Um,
did not even realize that
yeah,
came out.
so
Wow.
yeah, it's
I guess
awesome.
it was a couple
You
weeks ago,
have to,
but yeah.
I heard it and I pre-ordered the second I heard the single. What it is, it's a double album. One album is like super short grindcore. The other album, it's a double EP. It's 3 songs, and it's awesome. And it comes kind of full circle too, especially with the album covers. It's so cool. The grindcore album cover is a bunch of like robins feeding their babies maggots. The 3 song long album cover is the robins picking maggots off of a decaying deer. So it all comes full circle. It is so cool. But the 3 song album is super doomy and sludgy, and it's just so good.
Yeah, yeah, I've been Full of Hell is like one of my favorite bands. So
Yeah.
I guess I just somehow slept on those releases.
Yeah, the first track is Acacia Strain and Full of Hell. The second track is just Acacia Strain, and the third track is Primitive Man and Acacia Strain.
Well, yeah, I have to check that out. I was man, I think it was last year. But yeah, they did a tour last year that ended up having to get canceled, which I never got explained why. But they were playing. It was supposed to be Full of Hell, Wolves in the Throne Room, and then there was like a third band that was like a band that was just like on my music like
Oh
bucket
yeah.
list. And then yeah, and then the tour ended up getting canceled, and I'm just
Oh
like,
man. So I so upset. I was off that day of work. I think one of my coworkers was going to the show, and I forgot to get up with him. Like, hey, yo, want to drive me? I missed out on Philly. It was the Acacia Strain Primitive Man Full of Hell. I think what was the? I think it was Fit for an Autopsy. Was in Philly, and I missed the show. I had off of work. One of my coworkers went to the show. I forgot to be like, hey, yo, you should give me a ride. I'll pay for my ticket and everything. I just forgot. I'm so mad.
oh man, that would have been such a sick show. I get. Oh,
Not,
speaking of which, I
yeah.
guess like, what's your what's the best like uh live thing that you've
So,
been to?
time to expose myself. I have never been to a metal show. I've only been to also 2 concerts, both for the same person. Um, I have seen it was Dweezil Zappa doing Zappa Plays Zappa live.
Cool.
Because I'm a huge Frank Zappa fan. So is my mom. So my mom and I went mother son bonding over some questionable music. But honestly, both shows were life changing, especially the second show. I actually went and I downloaded the show off of YouTube, spliced out the song, and put it on my van playlist just for myself personally. So for Zappa fans in the audience, I don't know if you're into Zappa. Um, he Dweezil always closes with Muffin Man. my favorite Zappa song is Black Napkins. It's an instrumental piece. My favorite song of all time is the 30-minute long version at Live in New York from the deluxe CD release. I think it's like 28 minutes long. It's a 2-chord vamp. That's it. But it's just solo after solo after solo. So good. But so when they do Muffin Man live, they play through, he does a solo, calms down, he introduces the band, then the sax player introduces Dweezil Zappa. So she goes, and introducing Dweezil Zappa. Drums hit, bop, 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 bop. He goes back into Muffin Man, but instead usually he'll go back into a solo. He played the melody for Black Napkins on top of Muffin Man. Dude, for telling someone who doesn't know, you can't understand, but I just got goosebumps just thinking about remembering it. In the stands, I was blown away. And I hate being that guy, but it shows I'm that guy who just sits there quiet because my anxiety and autism kicks in. But I freaked out when that happened. So that was life-changing. But besides that, I haven't been to a single show.
Man, you gotta change that, dude.
I know I did.
Yeah.
I last year still really upset about this. One of my coworkers, really good dude, best friend, he offered me a ticket to go see Coheed. I'm not a huge Coheed fan, so I was like, I'll pass.
Oh yeah, they came through Wichita earlier this year.
Dude didn't tell me Death Heaven was opening for them.
Yeah.
I am so mad. He sent me a snap. He was like, yo, this Death Haven band is great. I'm like, dude, wait, you mean Death Heaven?
Death Haven?
And I'm like, no, you did not just mean that. And he's like, yeah, they're really good. I'm like, dude, you didn't tell me they were opening for them. I'm so mad. But luckily, my friends and I might be going to see them for the Sunbather tour. So.
Oh, cool. Wait, they're touring for a Sunbather?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, because its anniversary just kicked in. I think it's later this year. I think the showing I'm going is December 6th or something.
Death Heaven, I loved Sunbather, and then that Black Brick song that they did was amazing. I just kind of sampled the stuff that they released after that, and it just didn't click with me.
It was weird when my friends got into Sunbather. I hated Sunbather. I refused to listen to Sunbather because I was like, black metal should be depressing. But I gave it a listen, and it's really good. But I prefer New Bermuda from them. That even though it's after, I think it's Sunbather but depressing rather than more uplifting.
I need to take the time and actually give it a full.
I've given it some listen and I've very much warmed up to it.
I'm trying to remember if it was that one or no. I listened to that one a little bit. It was when they did the newest one, Infinite Granite, is when I because that one just it's not a lot
more dream pop than anything else.
Yeah, and, I'm all for bands mixing it up and experimenting and shit, but it's just that was I just felt like they had such a good thing going, what they were doing. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to. It's good that they're doing, they're doing whatever they're doing. Bands got to evolve. That was my thing when I was when I was growing up. I was really deep in the early 2010s, mid 2000s, deathcore scene. A lot of those bands that
MySpace deathcore.
Yeah, and a lot of the bands that are still around, playing and stuff. It's I got to see them before they got signed to labels and shit. But yeah, when I was a kid, there would be so many times that band would come out and they're doing the typical deathcore thing. I'd be really into them, and then they put out an album where they start adding some singing to it or something, and I'm just fuck this band. I'm not a fan anymore.
Yeah.
I've kind of come around on that, as I'm growing up, kind of being well, you can't just make the same music all the time. But back then it's I'm everything the same.
Yup. Oh yeah. Yeah, music's a crazy world, man.
Yeah. What else have you been listening to lately? Is there anything any releases from this year that are really stand out to you?
Honestly, I still need to get around to a lot of this year's stuff. I mean, Spife already said anything I could say about Tomb Wizard, but I'm going to say it again. Tomb Wizard is making the best music in the DS scene right now. What Spife said about like it scratches an itch, same thing for me, different story, but it scratches an itch so hard for me. My first Dungeon Synth album was Old Tower's Stellary Wisdom. My second was Thief 2, but my first album was Old Tower's Stellary Wisdom. And Tomb Wizard, especially the first album and None Darker, are like, they just bring back so many memories of me finding Dungeon Synth for the first time.
It like hits that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's that perfect middle ground between dark ambient and Dungeon Synth.
Yeah.
Where it's not dark ambient enough that you can't call it Dungeon Synth. But you could totally throw it in a dark ambient playlist and no one would be like, oh, that's nerd stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because like I've been I don't know, just oh shit. We're running out of time.
Okay.
Again.
Yeah, you wrap it up, you're good.
Well yeah, I was just now that we're kind of getting into September, I've been kind of just like thinking about what my year-end releases are. I don't have anything like off the top of my head, but like last year it seemed like a lot of people were making like just kind of posting their top 10 albums and shit. And then and I could not like, I just was just like struck. I was like, man, I wish I had like kind of thought something up. And then I think it was like middle of January. I was like, you know what? I do have a list in my head of like my favorite albums. But I'm like, now it's kind of I've been kind of like, because I used to always do that like with my friends. Is like we would just come up with like our list of albums and then kind of like compare it, So yeah, this last couple of weeks I've been kind of just like going back, looking at what I've been listening to a lot lately, and trying to figure out where everything ranks at, or what would at least get into that list. So but yeah, I don't know. Now that there's these 2 new Full Hell releases, those will probably pop up in there. And then I got some stuff coming out next month that I'm like really amped for, but it's like some pop music. But that'll probably make it in there too. Do you have any final thoughts or words to close out the interview?
I love you guys. I love you all. You guys are, everyone in the scene, everyone who participates, you really make it enjoyable. I mean, the best part of Dungeon Synth is the scene. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, the music's great, but the scene is what is the best part of it. So, but then it's without you guys, we can be doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about. It's like I just want to be able to talk to, be able to talk to people. Like this is great, getting face to face. Like you gotta, Well, yeah, man, it was great to have you on and great to talk to you for a little bit. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hop on here.
You're welcome.